We all love a good open world game, and there's been quite a few of them this year. But as we're closing the year out, which ones are the best? Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on GameRanx, the top 15 best open world games of 2023. Starting off with number 15, it's Final Fantasy XVI. Now, it's been a while since there's been a Final Fantasy game that just straightforwardly does turn-based combat, but a lot of people looked at this game as a pretty significant departure because it basically just went full Devil May Cry with the combat, and I like it. I think that it's actually quite good. This game was met with a little bit of suspicion when it first came out, primarily due to that, but when they released a demo, for me, it was kind of like, all right, yeah, I'm there for this kind of Final Fantasy game. And I'm kind of a tough sell. I'm burnt on the Game of Thrones style story, and they went all in on that kind of thing. But they did a good job, I think, telling this kind of story. They interweave societal inequalities and power dynamics with personal vengeance. And although some people gave it a bit of criticism for very linear progression, I guess my question is, what do you think a Final Fantasy game is going to do? Like, Final Fantasy isn't Breath of the Wild. It never has been. It's always been a pretty linear affair. And yeah, this is a 50-hour Devil May Cry game with political intrigue and very personal narratives that also has this really great system for keeping track of what the hell you're supposed to know. I had a hell of a time with this game, and I would highly recommend it. Only thing is, right now it's currently exclusive on PS5. I'm sure we're going to see it on PC sometime within the next year, and it also feels weird that we wouldn't see it on Xbox, but who knows? Great game, though. At number 14 is Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty. So we all know the richest to rags to riches story of Cyberpunk 2077 at this point. If you need a nice detailed recap, your old pal Falcon did a video on it a few weeks ago. Go ahead and give that one a watch. But they didn't just spend the 3 years after Cyberpunk 2077's launch making it into a much better game. They also worked on an expansion called Phantom Liberty, and it's awesome. Everything that Cyberpunk 2077 did correctly, both at launch and after all of the fixing, is done even better here. It gives us a new area called Dogtown. It's probably the most interesting district we've seen yet, and it drops us into a political spy thriller, which is not what Cyberpunk 2077 is. However, it works, and it works really well. It works so well that, in my opinion, it makes Cyberpunk 2077 feel complete. It gives you a new ending. It benefits from all of the revamps of the 2.0 update. I mean, it's just a fantastic expansion that finally gives you a real ending. You know, one that actually resolves the conflict of the story, the true conflict of the story. It's Cyberpunk 2077. There's still a couple of minor technical issues. It's certainly not a perfect game, but wow, is it so much better than when it launched, and Phantom Liberty is just a fantastic additional campaign. At number 13 is the Crew Motorfest, brought to us by Ubisoft Ivory Tower, which, if you aren't familiar, are actually made up of developers from Edensoft, the developers behind Test Drive Unlimited 2, and there's a lot that the Crew Motorfest shares with that game in its DNA. It's set on Oahu, for one. However, obviously this one is a much more striking and visually elaborate version of it. There's more of a decade in between these two games, obviously. But it also takes a page from Forza Horizon 5 in its structure of how the game is put together. It's very much an arcade-style racer. You have a few options for tweaking difficulty and assists, but you're not going to turn this game into Gran Turismo, and I'm fine with that. I do love me some Gran Turismo, but I kind of like arcade racers a little bit more. There are a couple of things that people might not love about it. It's an entirely online game. There's no offline mode. That said, there are both AI and real players. You might be confused by that. You might be relieved to hear that. I personally think it's a positive because it makes it so that the game is always, you know, at least full feeling. But man, it does such a good job of Oahu. It is a cool, big, open environment. And although the map is actually a little smaller than previous Crew games, the scale is a little bit bigger, if that makes sense. Like the Crew 2's United States was not the scale of the United States, but Oahu here feels pretty big. Maybe not necessarily the scale of Oahu exactly, but I don't know. I think this one really comes together very well. So if you're looking for a good open world racer, this is where to go. And number 12 is Sons of the Forest, the sequel to The Forest, which released in early access back in February. I mean, it's really hard to talk about this game without talking how pretty it is. It's pretty damn good at establishing both like beautiful but haunting and maybe even chilling atmosphere. To call Sons of the Forest atmospheric would be an understatement. It does a very good job establishing a mood, and that mood persists throughout pretty much the whole thing. And it meaningfully expands on almost everything that the original Forest gave us. It's got great combat, crafting, and progression stuff, but it merits reminding everybody also, this is still early access. There's stuff that will probably be more fleshed out by the time the game truly is finally released. But even so, Sons of the Forest is an incredible open world experience as it is today. And number 11 is Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Again, this is a PS5 exclusive. This one will probably be out on PC, but not on Xbox. Obviously, Spider-Man does an incredible job with New York City. Spider-Man 2 expands out to Queens and Brooklyn and gives us that same incredible attention to detail, as well as necessitates some new traversal techniques from the Spidered Man. Combat is both similar and different from the first game. You've got parries, for instance. The bosses are much harder in this game. They've really done a lot to ensure that this is not just a repeat game, but a new game that meaningfully builds on what the first games did. I mean, between Kraven and Venom and the Black Spider suit and all of these great things that interconnect a truly good story with a lot of the same stuff that you would normally expect in a couple of different curveball takes that really work. I mean, what more is there to say? This is basically the big, bad, crazy Spider-Man sequel we all wanted. And number 10 is Star Wars Jedi Survivor. In my opinion, a tour de force sequel that takes everything that makes the original great, builds on it, and even gives itself more of its own identity as a series. You just got this incredibly intricate level design that takes a kind of Metroidvania approach that just, I mean, it takes all the abilities from the first game, either builds on them, adds a bunch of new abilities, including new stances, new force powers, and this just does a better job of making Cal Kestis a little bit more nuanced and complex in terms of the narrative. This one's a little bit more tenuous, a little bit more precarious, so to speak. I don't know. Really, the only complaint I ever had was performance at launch. It was not good. It's a little better now, but I mean, this is a game that really does a great job building on Fallen Order. And number 9 is Hogwarts Legacy, a game that took the Harry Potter universe and gave us a pretty damn good open world experience, not only in terms of the design of the world, but also in the various systems such as the combat system, the quest system, etc. It's just a really damn good version of what you would expect Harry Potter to be in an open world. I mean, people who don't love Harry Potter might find a little less to love, but even so, I'm not a big Harry Potter fan, and I thought this was a pretty good game. It does a lot of the same open world stuff that you'd expect from any open world game, but it does it pretty well. And I think just exploring the world is actually pretty darn satisfying, and it tells an interesting story set within the wizarding world. And number 8 is Dead Island 2, a game that faced multiple delays and development shifts. Originally planned to come out way back in 2015, finally launched 8 years later this year, and honestly, it's a great follow-up. It's kind of an interesting story revolving around some immune people, and it introduces this card-based level-up system. It allows for a fair amount of customization, makes it feel a little bit like an RPG, but it also feels so much like the original Dead Island. And everything is beautiful. It's very detailed and well thought out. Dam Buster Studios, the folks that made this game, I mean, they aced it. Hell of a game. And number 7 is Season, A Letter to the Future, a PlayStation and PC game, which is a very different looking game that involves a lot of exploration and documenting of the world as it ends. This is one of those games that it's very narrative driven. It has no real combat. It's got kind of a slow and introspective narrative, and it's paced appropriately for that goal. That doesn't mean it's not good. It is good. It won Best Art Direction at the 2023 Webby Awards, and I think deservedly so. It's a completely unique looking world and just setting all together. And maybe not for everybody, but at least people who are looking for something beautiful and new, there's absolutely plenty of that to go around here. And number 6 is Diablo IV, a game that updates the Diablo formula with a much, much larger world, but not one that sacrifices the meticulous design of previous Diablo games. It also takes place 50 years after Diablo III, Reaper of Souls. It has a slightly more responsive and refined hack and slash formula than previous entries. It's not foreign to what you would expect from Diablo, but in terms of dodging or crowd control, it's a game that feels great, and it exists in this huge, incredible world. And number 5 is Atomic Heart, the alternate history Soviet Union. I hesitate to fully say answer to BioShock, but obviously there is a large element of that here. This is one of those games that gives you a pretty nice big area, including a lot of interiors and exteriors, full of bizarre, weird, sometimes beautiful stuff. Whether it be architecture or enemies or even in some cases some vistas. It's also got really, really fast-paced, satisfying combat. And it's one of those games that kind of doesn't necessarily have the most well-written and serious main character of all time, but in a lot of ways I kind of find it charming. It's got that kind of jank element. Some people think the protagonist is kind of irritating. I think that there's something old school about him that I like. Not necessarily in a straightforward way where it's just like, this is completely good. But there's some element of that throwback that's interesting. And overall, Atomic Heart is a really worthwhile experience. I enjoy the hell out of it. It tells a weird story in a really weird way in a great open world. And number 4 is Assassin's Creed Mirage. Now, this one gives us an attempt to reroute the Assassin's Creed series in the more old school gameplay without abandoning everything that is new, and I think does a pretty good job. The Baghdad that they made for this game is fantastic. It's a very good Assassin's Creed open world, and if you like Assassin's Creed games, they did Baghdad right, particularly if you like the old school type of Assassin's Creed game. Now, I'm not going to say that it is a game changer or that it brings anything particularly new to the series, just that it kind of gives us an homage to the old school Assassin's Creed without necessarily abandoning the things that it has done as the years have passed. It's actually a pretty good game, and looking back, it's actually got a lot of good reasons to play it. It's maybe not exactly what an old school Assassin's Creed fan wants, but it's still a pretty damn good game. And number 3 is Starfield, which, just stick with me on this one. I'm not here to tell you that the narrative of Starfield is great, that the mechanics of Starfield are appropriately modern, or whatever. I'm here to tell you that Starfield does a pretty damn good job of creating a big old thing for you to explore and populating it with goofy, weird people that have interesting crap to say. Some of them don't, but a lot of them do. It's a very, very Bethesda game. And yes, a lot of people have said that Bethesda games are outdated. And yes, every single Bethesda game that comes out, I say, why aren't you just making games with the damn Unreal Engine? Stop making them with this crappy engine. Yes. And I'll probably continue to say that because it applies here. But that doesn't stop it from having a lot of charm and a lot of stuff to see that's just really fun and interesting. And number 2 is Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. Now, I am not a fan of Avatar. I think it is a very dull intellectual property, and I'm not going to pretend that I like it. That doesn't mean this is a bad game. It's actually a very good game. Ubisoft just did a good job with this. They kind of gave us a Big Blue Cat Far Cry. And the benefit of that is that Pandora is actually an extremely interesting world. I am a living piece of proof that you do not need to love Avatar in order to enjoy this game. This is a stunning, beautiful game that actually does a decent job of telling some interesting stories within the confines of the narrative lore that's been created for this series. If I'm completely honest, I prefer this game to either of the movies. And finally, at number 1, it's Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. I don't really know what to say about this game. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom have this combination of minimalism and maximalism that it's really hard to pin down exactly. You do have slightly more traditional Zelda stuff thrown in, but it's a pretty off-the-rails, do whatever you can come up with type adventure. It's minimalist in that you kind of get all the tools up front and they all serve a very specific purpose, but it's maximalist in that you are so free to use these things and bend them to your will. Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom is basically unlike anything else. How it runs decently on the Nintendo Switch, I don't know, honestly. It's crazy what you can do in this game, what you can build, what you can cause. I don't think any open world game is quite as open as Tears of the Kingdom, and I think that's a very fitting way to end. That's all for today. Leave us a comment, let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications, and as always, thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero, and we'll see you next time right here on GameRanx.